In today's episode, I speak to Dhiren Amin, the Chief Customer Officer at Income Insurance Singapore. Dhiren is also a good friend and a friend of the podcast. This is his second episode on the show. He started his professional career as a planner in creative agencies before he switched over to the brand management side. His first role was at Unilever before he moved to Kraft Heinz. There, he started as the head of marketing for Southeast Asia region before taking over as the CMO for Asia. After that, his current journey that we are going to focus on today with income insurance started. So, the previous chat I had with Dhiren on the show was focused on how marketers can and should build a full marketing mix mindset. In today's conversation, however, he talks about his journey at Income Insurance. Now, Income Insurance is the first brand from Singapore to reach the 34th rank in the global WARC effectiveness rankings. This milestone has taken a tremendous amount of effort in terms of product as well as communication design by a whole bunch of people on income. Meticulously, it has been strategized and it has been ceaselessly executed. He will walk us through this journey from where the brand had been, what the challenges were, the decision making process behind the design of the overall mix, and the lessons learned. So, we have Dhiren with us, friend of the podcast, the second returning friend of the podcast after Prem's episode. And thank you very much for being a part of the podcast again.
Thanks a lot, Rahul. Always a pleasure.
Let's go back to the beginning of your journey with income in Singapore. What was the challenge and what was the mandate that you were given when you took on the reins as the chief customer officer?
So I think the mandate is no different for me from any of my earlier roles, and actually I don't think it's any different from the mandate a marketer gets uh, when they join an organization, and that mandate is actually to drive profitable growth of the organization, and profitable growth is both revenue growth and profitability. Um and then you find ways of doing that, right? Depending on the category you work in, whether you need to win market share because it's a saturated category, or you need to develop the market because it's a new category that you see opportunity in. So to me, that was the mandate. I mean, I did not think of it as anything more lofty than that. I've mentioned this to you before. I've always believed, and I continue to believe, that marketing is first and foremost a commercial function. And so the targets that we carry are are supposed to be the targets an organization carries for its growth in the long term and the short term. And so that was really, I mean, there was no. I wish there was a more rosy mandate than that, but no, it is about profitable growth.
And just out of curiosity, something which I wanted to understand is that your background has always been FMCG, and over here the industry is very very different. And when we last did our episode, there was literally a marketing operating model that you had developed, and it works seamlessly in the FMCG world. Uh, when you were taking on this mandate, what was going on in your mind? Did you think that this would apply, not apply? You would have to iterate it in a big way. Tell us about the early days and the personal struggle if you were feeling any.
I, I mean, I knew it was a new industry, and I'd be lying if I said I knew how the industry or the products worked. I obviously did not. Uh, so I mean, I had a sense of both trepidation and anticipation of as to whether marketing would be the same or in this industry as compared to others. And of course, you hear things. But in principle, Rahul, I think once I got in, I recognized that, yeah, insurance, for example, uh, the products are more complex. But to be really honest, insurance is also in some ways a socially relevant product. I mean, at the end of the day, you're insuring people's lives, or you're providing financial cover for people's health or their travels or their cars. So, I mean, in that sense, it's got more of a meaning to people's lives uh, than some of the other stuff I've worked on. It's not to say actually that a moisturizer or a soap or food doesn't. I mean, food is integral to a person's life
Yeah.
as well. I mean, they all play different roles, and it just took me a little bit of time to recognize the fact that insurance has a socially responsible role as an industry first. Uh, and that is a source of energy for anyone. I mean, if you can come to work and do something every day that in some ways adds meaningful value to people's lives, it's a good motivation. So it took me a while to get there, but I understood that. The products are more complex. So I need to be more clear. They're more complex in the design because of the benefits and life insurance or health insurance. Although you craft the benefits in pretty much the same way, uh, it takes a little more to craft it, to understand the financial implications. Because at the end of the day, you're as I said, insuring a person's life. You have to be both holistic but also profitable in that sense. So it's um, it's slightly different and more complex in crafting the product. But then I could say in FMCG, it's more complex to manufacture the product. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, it takes a lot more. The design and the machine have to match. Here, the design has to be very robust and financially, I think there's the differences there. But outside of that, I think the principles apply. At the end of the day, um, what is the job to be done? Which is the target customer base? What is the product or brand benefit that you're offering, which is different from others in the market or unique in the market? Um, and then how do you build that within your product? And then how do you market it using your communication and your media? How do you price it right so that it comes to the right value? And then how do you provide the right kind of promotions and incentives for both the sales guys to sell it and for the customer to find it even more valuable when they close the deal in the last mile. These are marketing basics. These are actually commercial basics. They don't change by industry. And again, I did not uh, I did not recognize it till I started working in the industry. But then I did. I think the realization was that actually all the principles of commercializing a brand and a product and a company apply in exactly the same way. You just have to be respectful of the fact that the products are different and play different roles in people's lives. So yeah, that was the journey really.
Amazing. So let's rewind back to the absolute starting point, right? Um, Tell us about where the brand stood when you were just starting off. What was the big challenge in front of you? And the challenge could be something that the brand was facing or something internally that you felt like, maybe in the team structure or the way things were being done.
So if you know Income as a brand, Income is a very strong brand. It's a local jewel in
Correct.
that sense. Everybody knows about Income. Everybody loves Income. Everybody has strong points of view about Income, and that has very little to do with individuals. It's the respect and the heritage that the brand has built over 55 years. So I mean, I don't think individuals have that much impact on a brand with that kind of heritage. So I mean, I just have to be very clear about that. The brand was strong and is strong and will in the foreseeable future remain strong. So the brand didn't really have challenges. I think the business, as any business will, have challenges. And those challenges, of course, I mean, some of them I can talk about, some I can't, but those challenges are down to how certain parts of our business were doing within specific categories of insurance. And it was then about identifying what those challenges were, uh, what was coming in the way of hitting the growth targets that we wanted to, and then crafting solutions along with the sales teams to be able to overcome them over a period of time. The brand, as I've again always maintained, is a asset that's available to organizations for them to command value in the market, right? So from that standpoint, the brand was quite strong. It allowed for us to command respect and love in the market. We just needed to ensure it was translating faster and better into growth momentum ahead of the competition. Really, if I had to put down the challenge, I would put it down as that. And as we get into specific case studies, I mean, I can talk a little bit more about each of those. But yeah, that was broadly the challenge.
So let's jump into these specific case studies and let's try and understand, that journey.
So the first one, of course, is all the case studies that I'm going to tell you are, let's keep it to the ones that made it to the WARC, either got awarded at WARC or FEs, and then laddered back to the rankings because those will be relevant to this topic.
Yes.
There are others which I can't. I mean, I could have to spoken about, but this is the topic that it is.
Yeah.
But before I start, I just want to caveat one thing. I think effectiveness is not possible without two or three sets of people. First, the sales teams. Uh, we can do whatever the hell we want with the brand and whatever the hell we want with our products and design it. If our sales guys are not strong and can't sell it or they don't believe in it, um, you're not going to succeed. So effectiveness is not a marketing victory. Actually, I would argue the least important people in that journey of winning in the market is marketing. I think the most important people are sales. I think the most important people are operations. I think the most important people are people who are helping you build business cases for the products you sell, which is finance. So I think marketing represents the wrapper, and of course we'll take the credit for coming up with a mix that that delivers in the market. But we shouldn't be so blind as to say that it's our credit. It's an organizational credit, and the sales guy sits in that line ahead of you.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing to know. So let's start with the first one. I think travel insurance was the first one. Uh, and we are a dominant player in travel. It's well documented that we are the market leader. And this is back in 2023, where we were just coming out of COVID. Uh, and and we were seeing that people were starting to travel a lot more. I mean, there was revenge travel; it was a reality.
Yeah.
But people were not getting as much insurance as they did pre-COVID. Yeah, that was fact number one. Fact number two, while our market share was growing, it was not growing at the same pace as some of our competitors, right? So we had a market share challenge and we had a job as a market leader to also ensure that the number of travel insurances were in line with the number of travelers leaving Singapore.
Yeah.
And then we started to dig and we identified, okay, what's really the challenge? And the challenge came down to price, right? Um, we figured that the reason why travel is a commoditized category. I'm sure when you buy travel insurance, you go online, you identify which one is the cheapest, which one gives the best cover, and does that.
Yeah.
Right? So and we identified that the COVID cover that we had and had kept, which we had introduced, was creating a price difference between us and the other guys. And this put us in a bind, right? If you take out any feature, you have to change your pricing.
Yeah.
But that feature was driving the value market share,
Yeah.
right? So you take out the feature, you lose market share. You keep the feature, you lose volume share. So it was a bit of a conundrum. Um, so the only way out of it was to convince people in 2023 that COVID was still a reality, that they needed to plan for or plan against actually at a time when that's the last thing people wanted to think about, right? In 2023, people were like, I don't want to think about the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But the truth was, And so this was the business challenge. How do you get travelers to recognize the threat of COVID when it's the last thing that this is the last thing they want to think about?
Yeah.
And then the reality was that actually, even if you travel now and you get COVID when you're traveling, and you're abroad, it's a bit of a nightmare. I mean, you're going to have to change your flights. Now not so much, but in 2023 you had, you had to change your flights. You had to get a hotel and stay for 7 days. Uh, Last minute expenses, which can add up. And hence the idea basically was that getting COVID while traveling is still a nightmare.
You've got COVID. Found a cheaper place to stay because our travel insurance doesn't cover COVID. Come on, let's go.
And we said, okay, if it's a nightmare, then the best way to put this message out is by telling people about nightmares, how they are used to hearing about nightmares, which is through horror films. And so we went ahead and made a 18-minute horror film about uh, about a couple who got stranded because the husband got COVID and they had to they had to check into a CD hotel, and the horrors of doing that was essentially the communication. And it was a platform because we could extend it all through the year, and it had an experiential angle as well. So the other place where you can bring nightmares alive is in escape rooms. So we actually went and tied up with an escape room, which still exists today, actually, where Trapped, which is what the film was called, was converted into an escape room, and you could go experience what happened in the film in the escape room. That exists even today. And so with that, of course, I mean, that was traveling with COVID can still be a nightmare, was executed. And of course, the results then spoke for themselves, and I mean, it did better than we expected. So that's the first case, really.
But why 18 minutes? Was there a lot of discussion around the length of the film? Because typically that length is most marketers would not sign off saying that the engagement is going to drop off and all. So what was the argument from the creative partners, and what kind of gave you the conviction that this is the right way to go?
Actually, the conviction comes from the ability to use the asset. At the end of the day, very few people will watch the 18-minute film. We want them to, but they can't. But can we create short 30-seconders that talk about the same message, which we could? Initially, they came as trailers, but it still landed the message. Later, we could take snippets of that 18-minute and convert it into edits that spoke about traveling with COVID can still be a nightmare, and our products have these benefits that could cover that. And the 18-minute film allowed for us to have various cuts that we could run for the full year. So actually, the value is not in the 18 minutes. The 18 minutes is the destination asset. It's the value of everything that you create in making that asset, or in making that asset, and the amount of content you get that you can use for driving that message. That is the most valuable thing, right? The media was not on the 18-minute film. The media was on the 30-seconders. The media was on the statics. The media was on, the extensions. The media was on actually, telling people about the escape room and reiterating the message. So it was on that. The 18-minute was made for, if you want to really know, go ahead and see the full film. It's available. Uh, and, uh, and we put it up on StarHub Go, which is a streaming site. It was available on YouTube as a long format. But again, you have to be clear about where and how it will be used. Uh, the 18-minute was the destination, and we hope people would see it. But everything that we could do with that 18 minutes of content allowed for us to do things for the full year. Um, Dictating the 18 minutes versus 20 minutes or 10 minutes, that was not up to us. When we decided to make the horror film, we were clear about one thing, that we needed a person who could make a horror film. So we hired a horror film director, a person whose day job is to make horror films. He had made a film called The Maid, and he's recently made something else, which were famous. And so we went to a guy who makes horror films for a living, and he made the film, and that's his job. And he decided what that film would look like, and he decided the length of it. I mean, it's not our place to to question that. It's not our expertise. All we can question is, can I take this content and make something out of it?
So that platform, wherein horror became like a creative means to, bring alive travel, the need for travel insurance. Is that platform? How did that platform evolve once the revenge travel phase kind of, slowed down?
No, it didn't evolve. After
Okay.
the revenge travel phase went away, we had to pivot. I don't think. I mean, the platform was relevant till the problem was relevant. The less the problem became relevant, the less the platform became relevant. So I don't want people to take away the fact that, oh, the platform stays. Trapped as an escape room stays because its content value is high. But the platform doesn't stay because I mean, we'd be lying to people if we said, okay, you should be worried about COVID that way now, right? So, and hence the platform didn't stay after a year.
Got it. Okay, awesome. So that's you start because it's the cricket season, IPL season. So you started with hitting a six on the very first delivery with this case. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the next case.
Yeah, the second case is for personal accident insurance. And personal accident insurance covers you for accident related uh, accident related coverage. Uh, Specifically, hospitalization covers are better and things like that. Um, and the reality is that personal accident people should have this. I think because most people think that health insurance covers you fully, and in some cases it does, but sometimes there are gaps. But the challenge with personal accident, if I tell you personal accident and you're buying insurance, especially in Singapore, most people think, What kind of accident can I get into?" And people say road accident, right? Naturally, and road accident has a limitation. We live in Singapore. Singapore has 10,000 road accidents in a year. That's like only 10,000 opportunities to sell.
Yeah, the
And so
incidence
the size,
is very
yeah,
low.
yeah. So the size of the market was low. The penetration of personal accident was in the low single digits.
Right.
Personal accident insurance. And so if we wanted to grow this category, we needed to pivot, right? You need to expand from 10,000 is the best way I can put it. And then came the realization that actually personal accident also covers sports injuries, right? And that was the starting point, which is to say, actually, if you are, there are only 10,000 accidents in Singapore, but there are more than 1 million fitness enthusiasts in Singapore. People who do some form of fitness every day. And when you're into fitness, you're going to get injured every once in a while. And so you went from 10,000 to a million. And that was the reframe of the category and the market. And then, of course, we had to build the category because obviously you're, it sounds easy when I say it this way. But somebody has to build it. Somebody has to say, okay, this is what we stand for. And building is not easy, right? You need the product to do the job, which this one was. But then you need to invest in communication. You need to invest consistently, which is what we had to do. But we also needed to create products. When you sign up for this, you need to have a product roadmap as well that delivers. So actually, we went and created a product called Fitness Protect, which was what I would call the Rolls Royce of fitness insurance. Right? It covered maximum tears, dislocations, all of those things. It also covered equipment. So if you're cycling and the equipment gets damaged, and so we launched that. And to launch that, we we launched the idea of the world's safest athlete. So we had to make people recognize that you need fitness. And if you're into fitness, the only way to really not get injured is to like suit yourself up and be really, really safe or get a fitness coverage that protects you against the eventuality of getting getting injured. And so we created this idea of the world's safest athlete.
Kindly direct your attention to our guide, who will lead you through the safety steps. For your safety, use protective padding on your joints to prevent muscle tears and strains while running. Please keep your safety padding fastened at all times. In the event of an unexpected descent, cushion reinforcements provide a safe and comfortable landing. In situations with potential risk of fractures such as cycling, headgears will drop down from the overhead compartment. Keep your equipment securely covered at all times during the journey. If you find this safety routine overly complicated, we present Income's PA Fitness Protect.
And we showed the world's safest athlete doing ridiculous things like trying to run on a treadmill or doing, indoor rock climbing or trying to cycle and falling off, because obviously it is ridiculous. And so that was the asset. And then after that, we said, okay, how do you make this popular? And so where do people go for fitness at scale where you can get amplification? They go to events, they go to marathons. So we started hijacking marathons. So we hijacked the Pink Ribbon Walk. We hijacked our own Eco Run.
Hey, my name is Chow. I'm the world's safest athlete. Today I'm going to be crashing a series of marathons.
What's like the worst injury y'all have gotten before?
I think I tore my hamstring a couple years ago, so ouch, yeah.
Hamstring, like
Hamstring?
hamstring, big ouch.
Then are y'all scared of getting injuries again?
Yeah, of course.
Would you rather wear that or get insurance?
Oh,
So people could see the world's safest athlete while they were exercising at scale, en masse, to be able to drive, to be able to build the market and interest around this product for fitness insurance. And that was the second case really. That is part of the case. There is the fitness coverage or fitness insurance itself is the job, is the category to build. The platform is turn your setbacks into comebacks, which is a person if you're into fitness knows that the road to recovery is tough, but there's also a lot of pride. And so that actually is the platform, and that continues over 3 years now. But this was a specific product, and within this, we use this idea of the world's safest athlete to create higher amplification for this product of Fitness Protect. So that was the second case.
Amazing. Is there generally a bit of confusion when it comes to personal accident insurance as something which is this a health insurance product, or is this a what category is it? Like,
No, there
are
isn't.
people confused about it?
No, they aren't. So actually, see, the thing is, insurance outside of travel insurance, motor insurance is not a bought product; it's a sold product. And the reality is the following: is that life and health coverage are complex. There are 100 things that can happen to us from a health standpoint and from a life risk standpoint, right? Some of which we can't even think about, and we don't want. So that is why insurance remains a sold product. That's why you need agents. And do regular people understand it well? I would hazard no. But when they are interacting with the category, are they made to understand it well? I think yes. It's kind of like saying, I want a soap. Yeah, of course you want a soap. But is the benefit of the soap and the pH levels, do really people understand that? No. Are they meant to? No. If they really want to interact with it, they will get it. So it's exactly the same really in insurance. Do you understand that you need insurance? Yes. Would you understand you need personal accident as a human being? Probably not. Eventually, if you are on the lookout for that need, will it become more relevant and will somebody explain to you? Yes.
And over here, since you mentioned that it's a sold product, I'm curious the role that the sales function, played in this? Like, how did that evolve? Like, was it about going out and finding who the athletes are, or if you find out that someone is an athlete, you try and pitch them actively this product?
No, I think firstly, sales impact starts much earlier. Sales impact starts in building the product, right? When you build the product, in your design phase itself, get sales inputs, and sales are different channels. So you get their inputs. They're part of it. They're part of the approval process as well, because it's in nobody's interest to create something that sales is not going to sell.
Yeah.
Okay, that's first. Yeah, I mean, here the challenge is, of course, um, how do you look for people who are into fitness? But Rahul, there are 4 million Singaporeans and there are 1 million fitness enthusiasts. One in every four people you talk to is likely to have some kind of fitness need. It's just about being able to have that conversation. The challenge, of course, is to get not just sales, even product, even everybody else, to understand that shift and say, okay, that is an opportunity. And now I need to create a selling story that I'm convinced about, which I can then convince my sales partner about to be able to go and explain that to other people. But yeah, I mean, if you ask me, my answer will always be sales is integral. And them buying your story is non-negotiable
Yeah.
in anything.
Amazing. So this reframe, from a category of personal insurance, which is like 10K accidents annually in Singapore, to personal to fitness insurance, which is like a million people category. What happened to the personal accident category? Like, is that product still
Yeah, yeah.
relevant? Does it still exist? Okay.
Because even in the main personal accident product, there is sports injury cover. So the whole platform of personal accident is about fitness coverage. The Fitness Protect is even more specific product if you want really, really a full blown only fitness cover. Let's say that. Because personal accident will also cover other things. It will cover, unknown diseases. So if COVID had happened and you had personal accident, it would have been covered before the world discovered it. So it has other benefits, but it also has sports coverage. So the simplest way to put it, the platform of personal accident is now propositioned around fitness coverage, although it has other benefits. And Fitness Protect as a product is a standalone fitness product that only covers, but covers all of the basic fitness needs you may have.
Amazing. So there was a new product which was designed, and a
Yeah,
feature, like a feature from the previous product was kind of blown up to
yeah,
create a new product. Amazing.
yes.
Absolutely brilliant. So, okay, let's talk about the next big story.
The next big story is about protection. Uh, Protection, simply put, is the basic protection death coverage products that you get. Uh, uh, and there are many facets to that. Some facets are you just have basic death coverage, then you have coverage against critical illnesses, which means that if you get cancer or a heart attack, you have additional cover that gives you a one-time payout if that happens to you and those kind of things. And everybody will try and find their own angle of promoting this. And critical illnesses are on the rise. People are getting things like cancer younger, getting heart attacks younger. Um, Also, actually, these are high cost things. There is, I think, surveys that tell you that, when this happens and you're not covered, you could go into debt. Or, you really have to do very dire things to stay afloat and stay alive, right? And so we chose to focus on that, which is people need to get critical illness coverage within protection and ensure that they are adequately protected, because the LIA stats show that there is a 76% protection gap in Singapore when it comes to critical illnesses. And critical illnesses there are 158, 180, roughly 180, but the top three are cancer, heart attack, and stroke. And so we needed to popularize this, right? Get people to recognize that they have a protection gap against critical illnesses and, and, and get adequate coverage, right? It's not about saying, get covered. I think people are intelligent enough to have a basic life insurance all stage of life. It's about ensuring you get the adequate coverage, and we have a product that provides you adequate coverage against things like critical illnesses. And so obviously this is what we wanted to talk about, right? This was the business challenge, which is grow the business of protection by ensuring that people recognize they have adequate protection against critical illness. And so the campaign idea was actually, it came down to a conversation, and actually, unfortunately or fortunately now, with good medical, progress, a lot of people have gone through cancer and come through it, right? But the first call when you're told, sorry, you have bad news, it feels like life just crashes.
Yeah.
And that was the insight, which is life can fall apart in seconds if you don't have adequate protection. It sounds like a great insight, very morose, right? Very scary, like everything in business of insurance. And so we said, it's the right message. We have to put it out. How do you do it in a way that it's a little more palatable? And so we said, the creative agency came up, okay, song. Okay, so song. But then what song and how will the song become popular? People can say song, and many people talk in advertising about song, but you need a lot of money to make a song popular, right? And it's not like running a regular campaign. And so we said, if we have to do this, then we need somebody really famous. Famous costs money, lah. So we don't have, nobody has that kind of riches unless unless you know Rihanna or Lady Gaga personally. You don't. If you're a Singaporean brand, you don't have the luxury of doing that. So we went looking, and we found this brand called The Calling, who in 2000 or early 2000s were number one on the Billboard top 10 charts. And they have actually been on that chart for the longest time. They're a band that have been on that chart as number one on the Billboard for the longest time. That's the record they hold. But for various reasons, the band hadn't been doing well, and for 20 years they hadn't done something valuable. And so we managed to get them. So we got a global, band who, were still very, very good. And we got them to make the song. And the song was called, and they made the band was a calling. And they made the song for us. And it was a 3.5 minute video. We made a great video around it, but it landed the message that your life can fall apart in a matter of seconds. The song was called Falling Apart. And the video was dramatically of a person's life around him, graphically just crumbling, with this song playing in the background.
I'm sorry, James. It's cancer. Is there any hope to be found? Yeah, everything's falling apart. Everything's gone too far. I would put it back together if only I could.
So that was the main campaign, and we were the visuals were like the covers of the albums. The extension was we got local bands and influencers, music influencers, to create their own version of the song. And we got all of them to record their own versions and with videos, and we amplified those. And then, we got some of the guys, they used to busk. We got them to busk. Some guys used to perform or still perform in local bars. We got them to contractually perform that song every time they perform for 6 months. And so we popularized the song, and the song became the vehicle to popularize the message, which became the vehicle to popularize the product. And that was it. That was really the story of the third one.
Amazing. This does remind me of Abang Adek from the Chili days.
Yeah, it does in some ways. I think the learning, Rahul, is always you cannot leave. Firstly, you have to be very clear about your message and why that is, right? And that has got to come from a very strong business challenge, which should then very clearly define your communication challenge. And I think in all the three cases, you will see that. And then it has to allow for some creative liberty, like heavy creative liberty. And when all of these things come together, you actually create something interesting. But that's where most people stop. But actually, the journey starts there. To me, the magic of all of this is the escape room for travel, is the hijack of the marathons for the world's safest athlete, is the busking and the performance in the bars of the song that was created by a global band. That makes it, that gives it legs, that gives it longevity, and that gives it relevance in the everyday. And that's important. You need to find that because otherwise campaigns are going to end in 3 months. We don't live in a world where anybody has that luxury. We need to create campaigns once that can run at least for a year. And unfortunately or fortunately, given the proliferation of media, both offline and online, we only keep talking about online proliferation of media. People have a lot more things to do and they're not on their devices. So how do you influence those things? And to me, that's the success. But that's the more important heavy lifting work that people have to do.
Something which stands out, which has always stood out, whenever I'm interacting with you, and even when I think of all the past work from the Kraft Heinz days, is that before any before the creative process is even initiated, the asset creation process is even initiated, there's a very strong, you know, uh, finding out the root issue that needs to be tackled, and framing that in the correct way, so that then all efforts after that are directed towards, trying to overcome that challenge, or trying to, or if there's an opportunity which has been identified, and trying to make the most out of that opportunity. And it would be nice to hear from you, what is your method? Because I have seen the amount of hard work that you put into that. So talk about the importance of it for you and how you typically approach this.
So firstly, I should give credit for this to the Indian education system, which is, in the Indian education system, you have questions and you have answers. And we are used to answering questions, right? And so I've been brought up in that, right? There was never exams where, it was more cerebral, which I actually believe in that, let's make something. It wasn't that. There's a question and there's an answer. And all the way from, junior KG all the way to engineering, that is what we were brought up on. So you could argue that Indians are brought up on 20 years of answering questions through education before they even get into the workforce. And so it's natural is to, what's the question you're trying to answer? What's the problem you're trying to solve? Once you know that, you'll look for the answer. But if you don't know that, you're just shooting. It's like saying, it's like you're playing what do they call that? Paintball. You can't see who's in front of you. You're just firing bullets. It's not going to hit. And so it is that. It is the grounding of being able to identify what you need to solve. And this is not about communication. This is about the business. Why is something working or not working? Having clarity around that as an organization so that every part of the organization does their bit to either build it or fix it is important. Once that is in place, then everybody will have their own role, right? It was important to know that, we had to justify COVID, right? It was important to know that a category of fitness insurance gave us an opportunity to reframe. But it was also important to know that that would be a tough job and we had to agree to go down that path. So the thinking always has to be, and that's where data, and we keep talking about that's where data plays the biggest role. And if you go back, I mean, this is everything I told you on travel or for fitness is basically database, is data driven, which is 4 million people, 5 million people traveled. Only 1 billion people got insurance. You know, market share is doing okay, but there's challenges. Uh, if you look at the pricing, there's something the pricing is telling you, and you then put all of those things together and arrive at the problem. And then when you arrive at the problem, you solve it. But if you don't arrive with that level of clarity on the problem, what are you trying to do? Then you're living, then we are leaving it to divine luck, really, which can't be the way to either run life or business, I guess. Although life sometimes works that way.
And this general outlook towards defining the problem, is that like a formal process which happens regularly, or is that something which is initiated when before, say, a big campaign is supposed to be done, or is it a yearly effort? Like, how does it work in the back end?
I would like to believe that, and I've kept saying this, really. I've said that the campaign is never the answer,
Yeah.
or communication is seldom the answer. So so now to answer your question, you're hopefully not arriving at, oh, this is the problem I need to solve with communication. When you're thinking of the communication, you have been able to identify this as a problem in your monthly commercial reviews of the performance of the business, and or as a part of your strategic planning for the year and business drivers for the year. When you're doing your budgeting cycle, you've identified this as a strategic lever, and then you're saying, okay, for us to be able to achieve this, this is what product needs to do, this is what sales needs to do, this is the money that's required, and then this is what communication needs to do, and then you're executing the plan. So firstly, hopefully it's a part of your annual plan. If it's not a part of your annual plan, it's a part of your monthly commercial reviews where the problem is defined, and then that problem is taken on and said, okay, communication has this job. So I don't think it's a function of communication standalone deciding that this is it. I mean, then there is a real challenge. It has to be a derivative of the everyday managing of the business that identifies this as a problem to be solved. So yeah, I mean that's really it. Even protection, for example, we wanted to do it because we want to grow, like any other brand. We want to grow our share in the pie of protection. It is critical. And so we need to work on that. When you look at brand equity and you look at some segments and you identify, okay, in this particular segment, when it comes to protection, we could do better. And then by identifying that segment and saying that I need to win better in protection, you identify that as your challenge, that I need to grow by doing this. Then you identify that actually, you know what, in my product, there is this benefit around critical illnesses. In the industry, there is a challenge around the right coverage for critical illnesses, which is being called out by the governing body. And you put all of this together and identify the challenge. But this is not happening in silos, and it's happening as a part of your everyday management of the business.
Amazing. Yeah, and that's the less spoken about, the commercial due diligence which is done by marketeers on a daily basis, or at least should be done by marketeers on an everyday basis. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. So we've spoken about a music video, we've spoken about a horror story, and we've spoken about, the safest person. Now, what other interesting stories are you sharing? What's the next one?
So there have been, I mean, these are the ones that actually contributed to the WARC effectiveness. I mean, we have done pretty cool stuff here. So in recent times, I think there was something in the news around electric vehicles. And so electric vehicles are are booming across the world, and they're booming in Singapore as well. And now every third car that is bought is an EV. And so we wanted to grow in the EV market, and we as again a dominant player in motor insurance. But EV is a new technology, and nobody really has market share that, right? So electric vehicles growing, uh, but electric EV insurance not growing as fast, growing but not as fast. And we as a dominant player in motor insurance for the health and future of our business also need to have more than a fair share in electric vehicle insurance. And so we wanted to create and dominate the market of electric vehicle insurance. It's the job to be done. Um, and then we identified that actually people who buy electric vehicles. In the first year, your EV electric vehicle, most people stick to the insurance that they are given with their car. But in the second year, when it comes up for renewals, they change for reasons of price primarily. And we noticed a behavior that when they change, they go back to regular car insurance. And so it's almost a joke, right? I mean, you're buying an electric vehicle and getting a regular car insurance. Your problems are different. Your problems are, home insurance. If you have an electric charger at home, you have a higher risk of fire at home, so home insurance. Data theft and cybersecurity are a big issue in electric vehicles, not in regular cars. For anybody who's buying a EV for the first time, range anxiety, which is, will I run out of charge, is a real worry. And so we actually crafted a product that was fully built for electric vehicles, insurance that was fully built for electric vehicles called eDrivo. And the insight still remained the same that, if you, if you have an electric vehicle and you're getting a regular car insurance, a bit of a joke. And that's it. That's what extended. He said, if it's a joke, then let's tell the joke like how you would tell a joke with stand-up comedians. And so we had two stand-up comedians sit between two chargers, and one was a smart guy and the other guy was egoistical, and they were going at each other, and we used that stand-up format as a way of landing the message.
So eDrivo insurance is different from regular car insurance?
It's car insurance specially designed for EVs.
EV insurance? What's wrong with my insurance?
Your insurance is like that umbrella in your juice. Doesn't even cover you from the sun. It's like telling a joke, but forgetting the punchline.
What's the joke?
Your current insurance.
What's the punchline?
Your battery. eDrivo car insurance gets you emergency mobile rescue.
Like a superhero?
With quick DC fast charging to get you to the nearest charging station.
Whoa.
eDrivo also gets you unlimited battery replacement in the event of damage in an accident.
Unlimited?
Unlimited.
So that would turn my already super EV into a transformer.
You drive an EV, in comes eDrivo, is your insurance.
And then we extended that by doing Singapore's first, and actually I think the world's first.
Let's go, got a new car, no stress, no fear. EV Insure got the best right here. Regular plans fit so last year. Hop in my ride and I hit top gear. Okay, that's nice, but let me go higher. Unlimited batteries never retire. What if your charge is running on low? Nowhere to go, just stuck on the road. Easy fast cars, that's how you roll. Juice up your car, you're back in control. If backers pull up thinking they got the tricks, eDrivo shuts them down real quick. Saving the planet with EV resurgence. You drive an EV, drive on your show. No fun, no stress, just roll, just ride. eDrivo got us electrified.
Drive-in comedy show. So we invited, or people were allowed to register, and if they're an EV vehicle owner, come to a drive-in comedy show where these guys were joking about many things, but primarily electric vehicles and cars and stuff like that. And that was it really. And we used that, and now we have content for a year and we can keep going. And it was cool, yeah. I mean, they did a rap video also, which we have just launched. The stand-up that I spoke about as the main asset is already launched about last year, and that was cool in its own way. But again, you see the principle of it. It's the extension into something that is content-worthy and talk-worthy, like Singapore or the world, and probably the world's first drive-in comedy that allows for us to create content, that allows for us to extend the campaign, and allows for us to, in this case, build a market for electric vehicles by calling out the ridiculousness of getting regular vehicle insurance for electric cars.
Amazing. So let's talk about, let's go back to where we started, you know, um, getting income to rank 34 in, WARC's global effectiveness rankings. Tell us about, what was that moment like? Was it something that you were trying to aim towards very rigorously? Is it something that happened? Is there something like, what has been the result with you, for you personally, the team overall? Like it's a very big moment. So tell us a little more about this moment.
So firstly, I think the moment happens when the business happens. I keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for marketers to know this. Our first responsibility is towards business delivery. If the business results come, that's our victory. If market share comes, that's our victory, right? Um, the role of awards is for motivation and for team motivation because marketers are creative craftsmen in some ways. They are they're solving business challenges using tools, in some cases of design and craft, right? And design and craft, if it delivers commercial value and gets awarded, it's great. So the role for awards is motivation for people who are working on that work to deliver commercial results from a marketing standpoint. Um, I guess it's a proud moment. Yeah. I've always had the attitude of saying I'll never give this more importance than necessary. Because my first responsibility is towards my organization. And these are always good to have. But they can only come if the business results are there. And I keep saying this to people a lot of times. The last column in the last segment in every entry form is your moment of truth. If the results talk, then you have done your job, right? And if the results don't talk, then you also shouldn't talk, uh, because there is nothing really to talk about. Um, and so for me, that's always been my guiding principle. And I've always had the attitude of this is important for motivation. It is important for people to recognize that we do great work that drives industry leading solutions. It serves as a tool of attraction for talent within marketing, but its job stops there. It cannot become and will never become a pursuit in itself. Uh, and I've always wanted to have that attitude and culture for everyone who works on commercial delivery using marketing tools. So yes, it's a big moment of pride, and I think it's a moment of pride for all of us. Uh, but it's just that it's not. I don't want to overplay its hand beyond that. It feels nice in the moment. It feels nice to be there. But if we are not 34 next year, but the results happen, that's good enough. Because I also have the humility to know that sometimes, you have to plow the field and the results will come. And sometimes you have to, you know, sprinkle the water and the results will come too. Plowing the field is as important. And I'll take those results as well.
Amazing. What's the next milestone that, you personally or the team as a whole is looking forward to?
My answer is boring. Yeah. We look at our KPIs and we see that those KPIs that are that are necessary for our organization are our goal and they are met. And those KPIs will be business driven, equity driven, social driven, sustainability driven. These are all KPIs that are important for an organization today and hence important for us. And doing those and delivering those to the best of our ability is what we have to focus on and work. I, I don't look for more lofty goals than that. I look for more lofty goals in my life, but in my profession, my goals are defined by what my organization needs of me and my team. They're not defined by individual glory, actually.
Amazing. This episode is a perfect continuity of the same message that you had in the previous episode about, commercials being more important, and probably not just more important, the most important job for the marketeer, and always start from there. So is there anything that I should have asked which I haven't asked you yet that you think you would like to add?
I think there's always been a debate about two things. Uh, in, one that has existed for the longest while, and one that is what I call a recent marketing's version of TikTok trends. So the first one is, of course, long term versus short term. And and I think to that, my point is most organizations have long term goals. They have 5-year plans. And then your annual plans are driven by those 5-year plans, right? Any organization will do it that way. And every year, as you go along the years, your KPIs for those 5 years will change. But I don't think it's fair to say any function, let alone marketing, should say that I'm focused only on the long term. The long term is defined by a set of short terms, right? You don't win an IPL tournament unless you get through to the qualifiers. So you have to play the round robin, right? And you have to win the round robin. You have to win 8 matches to be able to make it to the qualifiers and then to make the big victory, right? So it's like same as is true, same in the EPL. So as is true in sport, it's true in life. Yes, the long term is important, but it's a series of short terms. Uh, there's some wisdom in people who have written the cliches of you win small battles to win the war. All of these are true actually in life, and the same is true of marketing. You can't say, our job is to focus on long term and focus just on equity. I don't think we work that way. Uh, Also, equally commercial value for not just the organization, for even the individual is better and closer if you're closer to delivering exactly what the organization wants. So that's one thing that I did want to answer. The other thing, increasingly people talk about, marketing needs to explain to the CFO what they're spending. No, I think marketing needs to own the targets fully of what they're made accountable for. And they have to strive for those targets to be what are valuable to the organization in that year. And if they're able to show willingness to own those targets and show the effort to deliver those targets, the conversation your CFOs will have with you is on the targets and not on the spends. And I think it's important. I think we always the victim mode of this we shouldn't overplay that. Uh, there is and especially as you become more senior in the organization and those things, you have to have that visibility that you're as important as the value to the organizational targets that you carry. And your peers in your leadership will also treat you and have the same conversations to the magnitude of the importance of the targets you carry. That's just life. And I think we need to be cognizant of that. I think it's important.
Amazing. Dhiren, thank you very much for returning to the podcast, and we'll have you return again in future as the friend of the podcast. So thanks very much for making time, for sharing your insights, and wish you a excellent journey ahead.
Thanks a lot, Rahul. Look forward to chatting again. Bye.